Welcome. This lecture will show you how to get the most out of Claude Code. You're about to see a big change in how you use AI. First, you'll learn about the key change from being a typist to a director when using Claude Code. This means understanding that you're not just writing code anymore, but guiding an AI agent to achieve a clear goal. Next, you'll define what agentic really means for AI tools like Claude Code. Understanding this idea is important to use these smart systems effectively. As we go on, you'll learn how to describe results, not just steps, in your prompts. This skill helps Claude Code get the results you want more quickly and accurately. Finally, you'll use this director mindset to write really good prompts for Claude Code. By mastering this, you'll be able to do amazing things with AI. Before, you might have felt like a typist, doing every command yourself. You wrote code line by line with every detail. You focused on the how, given every exact step, but there's a better way to use AI to get more done. Now think of yourself as a director. You're not telling it how anymore, but defining what you want to happen. You're in charge of the results, setting the vision and standards. Claude Code, your smart agent, handles the details for you, making your vision real. Now that you're a director, how specific should you be? Let's see why giving clear directions is key to working well with an AI agent like Claude. Claude is a powerful helper that can do complex work, but it's also very literal. It takes your words exactly as they are, without guessing what you really mean. Claude will do exactly what you say in your prompts. It won't guess what you hoped for or what you meant to ask. The quality of Claude's work depends on what you tell it. Clear instructions lead to good results, like a film director needing to be specific to get the perfect scene. Now that you know how important your instructions are, let's see how Claude Code uses them. We'll look at the agentic workflow to see how Claude processes your ideas. Let's start with the first step. It starts with your prompt. You're defining what you want Claude Code to do, setting the stage for everything else. After your prompt, Claude reads files, it gathers info, understanding your projects to make sure its work fits in. Knowing your task and projects, Claude writes code. It creates the solution, making your directions real with its coding skills. But Claude also runs tests. This makes sure that the changes work as you want them to, catching problems early. Finally, Claude reports back to you, telling you what it did. You get a summary of the work, confirming that your idea has been done right. Knowing how Claude works, it's important to describe results, not just steps. If you think like a typist, you might write a prompt with every step, like create a function called handle submits. It should take an events parameter, then call prevent defaults, then console log the form data. This controls all the details, limiting Claude's abilities and putting all the work on you. But as a director, you'll describe the results from the user's view. You could say, when the user submits the form, validate the inputs and, if valid, add the new task to the list without refreshing the page. This lets Claude make smart choices using its agentic nature and letting you focus on the what. Look at this simple to-do list application that we'll use as our code starting point. It has an input field, an add button, and some tasks with checkboxes and delete buttons. Let's add a new task. I'll type have a walk and click add to see it on the list. You can also mark tasks as done by checking the boxes. Finally, you can delete tasks. This shows the basic things you can do in this application. These will be important as we learn more. Now that you're a director, let's see what your job really is. It's about overseeing the whole process, not getting stuck in details. And it has 3 steps to guide Claude well. Let's start with the first one. Your main job as a director is to define the outcome. Say exactly what should exist or work after Claude is done, focusing on the final result, not how to get there. Next, you need to set the constraints. Set the rules for Claude, like the text tag, coding styles, or files to avoid. This makes sure Claude fits into your project structure and standards. Finally, you review and decide. You're in charge of quality. Claude will suggest solutions, and you check them, accepting, rejecting, or asking for changes until it's perfect. This is where you have the final say. You've learned some important things today about this big change. Let's recap the main ideas to help you understand this new director mindset. We'll start with the first key understanding. You now know the change from being a typist, writing code line by line, to a director guiding an AI agent. You've moved from the how to the what, leading the development. You also know about agentic behavior, seeing how Claude Code takes charge and makes smart decisions based on your directions. This is what makes it powerful and efficient. You've learned to describe results, not steps, in your prompts. By focusing on the end result, you let Claude use its intelligence to find the best way. Finally, you know the director's three jobs: defining the outcome, setting constraints, and reviewing Claude's work. These are your keys to success, making you ready to take charge. This session will give you the basic skills to set up your environment for Claude Code. Let's see what you'll do. First, you'll learn to install Claude Code correctly as a Node.js command line tool. This makes sure your environment is ready for AI agent work. Next, you'll initialize a Git repository and make your project's first commit. This gives you version control, so you're in control from the start. You'll then learn 4 Git commands for managing changes made by an AI agent. These commands help you oversee your digital assistant. You'll learn when to use the dangerously skip permissions flag and, more importantly, when to avoid it. This helps you make safe and informed choices. Finally, you'll create a basic Claude.md file and learn how it affects Claude Code's behavior. This file is how you direct your AI agent to succeed. Now that you know about the Claude.md file, let's get your system ready. Before installing Claude Code, you need to have Node.js. You need Node.js version 18 or higher. Claude Code is a command line tool, and Node.js lets it run. If you don't have it, download the latest long-term support version from nodejs.org. With Node.js installed, you can install Claude Code. Open your terminal and run the command you see. This uses npm, the Node package manager, to install Anthropic AI Claude Code globally. The G flag installs it globally, so you can run the Claude command from any directory. It downloads and sets up everything for Claude Code to work. After running the install command, check that Claude Code is installed correctly. Type Claude version in your terminal. If it worked, you'll see the version number. If you get an error, check your Node.js version, as that's often the problem. Now that Claude Code is installed, let's talk about how you'll use it. You have 2 ways to direct your AI agent, and your choice affects what you see and learn. The first way, which we'll use today, is the terminal. With the terminal, you see everything, every tool call and every file Claude touches. There's also a VS Code extension for a more integrated experience. This puts Claude Code in your editor, which is convenient for working alongside other tasks. The terminal approach gives you direct feedback. Seeing the process helps you understand how the agent thinks and works. The extension is good for quick tasks, but it hides some details. Because it simplifies the process, we'll start with the terminal to build a strong base. As we build that base for directing your AI agents, you need to understand Git. It's essential for controlling and keeping your project safe. Let's see why Git is so important. Remember, Claude Code is designed to be proactive. It will write new files, change existing ones, and maybe even delete things to solve problems. Imagine Claude makes a change you don't want or deletes something important. Without Git, you can't easily undo those changes, and you could lose work. With Git, that worry goes away. You can undo everything Claude did with one command, giving you control and a safety net for your projects. Before using Claude Code on any project, you must first create a clean starting point using Git. In your projects directory, run git init to start a new Git repository. Then git add stages all your current files, preparing them for the commit. Finally, git commit with a commit message makes your project's first commit. This creates a stable start for your project, a snapshot you can always go back to before Claude makes changes. You've now made a stable start for your projects using Git. To manage changes from Claude Code, you need a few commands. These 4 Git commands give you control and peace of mind. Let's start with the first one. First, Git add stages all your current changes, getting them ready for the next commit. This tells Git which changes you want to save in your next snapshot. Once your changes are staged, Git commits with a message saves a snapshot of your work. Always commit before starting a new Claude Code session, so you can always go back to a known good state. When you need to review Claude's work, Git diff is useful. It shows you exactly what changes have been made since your last commit, so you can see what the agents did. Finally, Git checkout is your undo button if things go wrong or you want to discard Claude's suggestions. It discards all uncommitted changes, reverting your files to your last commit. Let's talk about the dangerously skip permissions flag. This tells Claude Code to stop asking for permission before running commands or editing files. It does everything without asking. The name warns you that using it wrong can cause problems. It's powerful, but be careful. You need to know when to use it and when not to. You have the knowledge, so let's look at when it's safe to use. Use this flag in temporary environments like cloud sandboxes, Docker containers, or local experiments. In these safe places, you can experiment knowing that any changes can be discarded without affecting your main projects. Never use it on your real development machine, production systems, or projects with sensitive data. Using this flag in these places is risky and could cause data loss or security problems. It's a powerful tool for speed, but the danger is using it in the wrong place. Be careful and make sure you use it safely for your current projects. So how do you manage permissions with Claude Code? The best way is to skip some prompts but require approval for others. You can do this with allow lists. With allow lists, you can allow save actions automatically, but still confirm anything risky. This gives you most of the speed and most of the safety, so you don't have to choose between everything or nothing. Finally, let's prepare the claude.md file. This is a markdown file where you give Claude Code context, rules, and instructions. It's read at the start of each session, so having it ensures Claude always has some guidance. Describe your projects, list your technologies and rules, and say how Claude should check its changes, like running tests. Now that you've made your claude.md file, let's add it to your project's Git history. Run git add claude.md to stage the new file, then commit it with a message. This makes the instruction file part of your project's version control, ready for Claude to use. Now that you've added your instruction file to version control, you've done a lot of setup. You've prepared your environment to work with Claude Code safely and well. Let's review what you've done, starting with the first step. First, you installed Claude Code globally with npm, so you can use it from any project. This gets the tool ready to use anywhere. Next, you initialized your project as a Git repository with a first commit. This gives you a safety net, so you can always go back to a good state. You also learn Git commands like add, commit, diff, and checkout. These give you control over changes from the AI agent, so you can manage your projects confidently. You now know when to use and when not to use the dangerously skip permissions flag. This helps you balance speed with safety for your project. And finally, you created the claude.md file, setting up how to direct Claude's actions. With this, Claude will always have context and instructions, even if it's just placeholders. In this lesson, you'll learn to understand the cues Claude provides, giving you more control over your AI interactions. Let's get started. First, you'll learn to spot the Claude Code spinner and know what it means. This gives you a visual cue about Claude's status. Next, you'll learn to read the tool use notifications Claude gives as it works. This lets you follow Claude's actions and understand its progress. You'll also learn how to respond to the permission prompts when Claude needs to run commands. Being comfortable with these responses ensures smooth, secure collaboration. We'll also learn to recognize the cost indicators shown after Claude responds. This helps you manage your interactions efficiently. You'll also master interrupting a Claude Code session cleanly using the escape key. This gives you immediate control. Finally, you'll learn the difference between a clean interrupt and closing the terminal. giving you full control over Claude Code. This is key to becoming a power user. First, let's make sure your progress from the last lesson is saved. Run these commands. This saves any changes you've made before we start using Claude. To start, I'll open the terminal and go to our project's root directory. To use Claude Code effectively, always launch it from your project's root. This ensures Claude sees all your files, including claude.md and package.json, for the best results. Once in the root, just type Claude into your terminal to start. After pressing enter, the Claude Code interface will load, showing a welcome message, your model, and a clean input line. At the bottom is the prompt input, which may show a previous command. This is where you'll type instructions for Claude. Let's tell Claude to add a character counter below the task input field. When you hit enter, you'll see Claude start planning, shown by the spinner, and increasing time and token count. Claude is planning how to fulfill your request. It's reading your prompt, loading your claude.md, and deciding what to do. No files have been changed yet. As it plans, Claude reads your project's files and lists directories like source/app.jsx and source/taskinput.jsx. This helps Claude understand your codebase. Claude then suggests code changes in source/taskinput.jsx, showing them as a div with additions in green and deletions in red. It asks for permission to make these changes. Let's accept the changes. After the edit, Claude summarizes the changes, saying the character counter has been added. It also shows how long it took. With the task done, the input line is ready for your next command. Claude even suggests a new goal: add a character limit. You can now type git diff in a second terminal. This git command shows any changes you've made that haven't been committed. If you want to stay in the Claude Code interface, you can run git diff by adding an exclamation mark. The terminal shows the output of git diff, showing the changes to source/taskinput.jsx. Minus signs in red show deletions and plus signs in green show additions. Now let's tell Claude to add a maximum character limit. Watch Claude plan and read files to understand your code before suggesting changes. Claude shows a diff of the code changes, highlighting additions in green. Let's accept the changes. After the changes, Claude suggests running the dev server and asks for permission again. You can approve once, deny, or always allow this command. Let's accept running it. Once you allow it, Claude runs the command, and you'll see the dev server start. It confirms the server is running and gives a status update. Claude summarizes the task, noting the character limits and updated counter display. You can now move on. You're at the prompt, ready for your next command, with the previous summary visible. Start typing /context. See how the system suggests commands as you type. After pressing enter, Claude shows it's processing with a dilly-dallying message. Now the context usage indicator shows how much of the context window you've used, broken down by system prompt, tools, and memory files. The context usage panel helps you understand how Claude manages its memory. Here you see the model in use, Sonnet 4.6. Below the model name is a token usage grid. Each field icon represents a portion of the tokens. The summary is 20.4K out of 200K tokens, 10%. This means you are using 20,400 tokens out of 200,000. Tokens are units of text the AI processes, showing how much information Claude is holding for our conversation. Next, the estimated usage by category breakdown shows where the 20.4K tokens are going. System prompt tokens. These tokens are for Claude's basic instructions. System tools tokens. This is for the tools Claude uses to interact, like reading, writing files, or running commands. Memory files tokens, a small amount of memory files. This is the Claude.md file with custom instructions. Skills tokens, these tokens are for custom skills or functions. Messages tokens, this is for our conversation history. Free space, this is the remaining capacity, meaning Claude has plenty of room left. Auto compacts buffer, 33,000 tokens, this is a reserve for when Claude summarizes older conversation parts. And in memory files, you see details about Claude.md using 26 tokens. This is where we put project context for Claude. Finally, skills via /skills lists the custom functions Claude can use. As the prompt, you can see options to view shortcuts or commands. This lets you explore the CLI's capabilities. As you type /diff, the CLI suggests matching commands. This helps you find the right command quickly. Running /diff shows an overview of your uncommitted changes, including additions and deletions. Now watch as I enter a prompt to refactor the app, breaking components into folders. The prompt is submitted and Claude starts planning. Notice the spinner changing. If Claude does something wrong, hit escape once. Claude stops, but the session stays open. Don't use Ctrl+C, which closes the terminal. Use Ctrl+C only to exit Claude Code completely, not just pause. After interrupting, enter a new prompt. You can also press escape once while typing to clear the input. If the input box is empty, pressing escape twice rewinds. This steps back through your conversation. You'll be asked to confirm the rewind and choose to restore code, conversation, or both. We'll revert to a previous conversation state without changing code, but you can test restore code and conversation. After confirming, the conversation and optionally code is restored. This is how our app looks. You've seen Claude make a real change in a codebase, and you tracked its progress. Let's review those key signals so you can read the interface confidently. First, remember the animation that starts with everything. The Claude spinner means Claude is processing your request. It's planning actions before changing files. As Claude executes, you'll see tool use notifications. You can understand which files Claude is using, whether reading or writing. Then the permission prompts ask for your approval before running commands. You can approve, deny, or always allow actions staying in control. After Claude's responses, the cost indicators show token usage. You can monitor these numbers for efficient resource management. You've also learned to interrupt cleanly using escape. You can pause Claude anytime, knowing your session stays intact. And to undo a bad response, double-tap escape on an empty prompt to rewind. This removes the last turn, letting you reprompt and guide Claude correctly. You have good tools for managing dialogue.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, you'll love Zenva Academy. 300 courses where you learn AI by building real apps. Links in the description.